the guy that recorded like mobile recording studio called Metro Mobile that would record like concerts that would broadcast on the radio here in Chicago. So this is like your Metro Mobile, but without the truck.
Right. And what's great, this all runs off batteries.
Does it really?
We can go into like, the middle of the parking lot.
What kind of, like a rechargeable battery or what?
Whatever,
like,
double A's.
Like double A's?
Yeah.
How many? Like 6?
2.
That's it?
That's it.
That's a
little SD card.
Right.
And it records on SD card? Wow.
It sure does.
Man, if they had this technology back when I used to record concerts, you know, like I'd smuggle in a tape recorder, or a lot of times I had permission, but the bigger shows I would just sneak it in. Man, or even if just the cell phones, I'd be like, man, if they had that in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I would have so many great recordings,
We'd
video
have some
and
great
audio.
Skinny Puppy
Exactly.
bootlegs.
Exactly. Yeah.
What a great way to start this. Here we are at Expo 2023.
Yes.
And we cornered Mike Vinikour. We're in the middle of the lobby.
Yeah, we're in the hotel lobby.
This is a really sweet look. It's a very fancy hotel.
It really is.
The fanciest pinball show hotel. We've all been to.
We've been to them all.
That's true. We've been to them all.
This is the nicest hotel.
And if you could see the hotel that, like, when I first started going to Expo at the end of the 90s versus, like, the hotel that we're currently sitting in, you wouldn't believe it was the same show or the same, like, reason for being at this place, right?
Right.
Motel 6.
Yeah, I mean, it was like Motel 6, like the dumpiest hotel in like a small, dingy room with the worst bathroom.
Right, right.
And now this is like this lush, like this massive suburban convention center that's very modern.
We've come so far.
Yeah, we have. It's like this pinball's come a long way in the last
it has been
the last decade or so.
Yeah, and there's an Herbalife convention here going on at the same time, so we see the MLM folks.
I walked by their party fiesta.
Yeah.
Right here there was a room and the sign just said party fiesta, and they had like these weird like candle LED light things. Ooh. And I'm like, wow, there's some weird stuff going on there. I was tempted to walk in there, but I thought that they would assimilate me.
It would be a little weird.
Yeah.
Very soon you'd be selling us vitamins.
Yes. Vitamins and like timeshare condo in Florida.
Yeah, we walked by some people in the stairway, and this, what's your current level? It's like, well, there's some parallels there, right?
Did they really ask?
Yeah, it was like
and they weren't talking about Venom, right?
Right.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Nice segue.
Thank you. This is why Stern pays me the middle box.
Venom's out here. Bond's out here. You're out here with Stern and Marco Specialty.
Correct. Yeah, this is like, I don't know, the 8th or 9th stop on my tour of the year. But this is right in our backyard. So a lot of us from Stern come to this one because we all live pretty close.
For sure.
But even the guys that work remote, you know, like Mark Vitarelli, Corey, Elizabeth, like they all came out, you know, flew or drove in, you know, depending on their distance to come to this thing. I mean, this has always been the big deal show for the industry because it was also the first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how long has it been around? Like 30 years, right?
I think next year is the 30th year, next year is the 40th year.
What?
Wow.
I think that's what Rob Burke was saying at the Hall of Fame induction last night. I think he said next year is the 40th, and he was asking, should we expand it by a day and make it go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and have Tuesday be the setup. And then, shift everything around and then spread out the panel so they don't just all stomp on each other, which I would be for because my panel would be nice. My panel got stomped on, and there's no wiggle room. They just go, okay, you have an hour from 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6. Like, well, from ours,
it's like at a show when the opening band plays a little too long. Everybody's screwed.
Everybody's screwed, and then in the case of the one that Lonnie and I did last night, we had to wheel a machine in there and set it up. So, we lost almost 20 minutes of our panel, which was unfortunate.
Very cool. I learned so much about Bond from that panel.
Thank you. So I've done a bunch of stuff, to talk about Bond. I've been on a bunch of streams and whatnot. This was the first time in my whole career at Stern and doing 5 games with Lonnie that he did a panel with me or even a podcast. But the fact that he even came to the show to do it was a really big deal because he normally doesn't like to do those things. He likes to let us work, do the speaking. He doesn't like to be in the spotlight.
Right.
And it meant the world to me that he came and did it with me. And it was a real treat. I mean, that someday when I'm old and retired or, I'm ready to leave this planet, I will seriously look back on yesterday as one of my career highlights that he and I got to do that together because I'm very fond of working with him. And
I'm glad I could experience it.
Yeah, so that was special to me,
It was weird because I realized yesterday at that panel that I had never seen him before. I just kind of assumed that I've, come across all the designers, all the living designers over the years. And
most of us will get out in one show or another, especially this one. But he just doesn't like to do it, Right. He works really hard, and he'd be like, you know what? That's time I could be working on our game. And I admire the dedication.
That work ethic.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Like he's got a really strong work ethic. But man, I wish he got out more, But but it made it more special,
Very good, very good. Any cool stuff coming out for Bond that you can talk about?
Yeah, without going into super details, but I could tell you some of the stuff, and I've talked about this in the past, so I'm not speaking out of school or where I'm not going to get in trouble for this.
Sure.
So the biggest thing is the Spectre weapon perks are still coming, and that's coming like super soon, like hopefully the next update, but I don't quote me on that because things may shift depending on.
Right.
It's really up to like what Lonnie can get in the time frame, but we would like to get another release out. But every time you do one of those Spectre weapons, each one will have a perk that will last for the rest of the game. So you'll get something like, for example, here's it's not even a spoiler because I said it was going to happen. There's going to be an Add-a-Ball Spectre weapon perk. Ooh. So whichever one I end up assigning it to, like it'll be one of the ones that takes multiple shots to finish because that's a
very
powerful one.
Cool.
You're going to get an Add-a-Ball once per ball that you can use in a multi-ball so you'll start with one, so you can pick a multi-ball to use it in.
Very
per
nice.
Ball. So
once per ball, but we're not use it or lose it. If you get it on ball one, then you'll start every ball where you've got an Add-a-Ball in your holster, you can resurrect a multi-ball or add a ball into a multi-ball that's running. I always use the Add-a-Ball to resurrect a multi-ball, right? You drain down the one ball, and before it gets to the trough, bam, you're gonna hit the button, and then now you got your multi-ball gets extended.
For sure,
it's really the only right way to use it.
It really is, and you know what? And there was a time when Add-a-Ball was still pretty new that I didn't know that. And then, so I would I'd stumble across it. I'd be like, oh, now I got more balls. I'm like, no, that's not actually not normally a good thing. Right. Like, it's easier to control less. Like, 2 is actually perfect because you trap up one and then you just start sniping shots with the other one, right?
Right.
So I always play multi-ball now where when I've got the ball saver, I'll be more chaotic and just flip on the fly. But as soon as that thing starts flashing fast and it's about to go out, then I start trapping up, and now I'm going to, hunt and pack,
I love how you added the martini shot because I've been hitting that shot over and over again for like a year, and I get no bonus. But now you made sure I get a bonus for it.
And you get a smart missile.
Oh, so the first one?
No, every martini shot you make will give you a smart missile. As long as your holster's not full. Now, if you've got 4 smart missiles and you do it, you're just going to get the points. And the points it starts at 1 million, it goes up 1 million every time you do it, caps at 10. So for the rest of the game, once you hit 10, it's 10 million, 10 million, 10 million, right?
Yeah.
But every time you do one, you'll get a smart missile as well, as long as you have a spot in your holster to put it.
Super cool. As soon as we found out about the martini shot, we ran after your conference. We ran to the floor.
Yeah.
And I told Rachel about it. We started playing, and she got the GC on one of the bonds.
Nice.
And what I love is, like, there's hundreds of games down there, and we go down and play the games that we own.
Yeah. So you guys are like the opposite of me. Like, I go to a show, or if I play in a pinball league, like, a lot of guys, like, especially in a league, like, you're competing. Like, I don't care if I win or lose in league. I'm there for the social aspect. The fun of pinball for me is, like, if the 3 of us were hanging out together, and playing games, that's the joy of pinball for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the competition. And sure, it's fun to be like, who of the 3 of us got the better score? But I don't like to put money on the line. Like, I don't even play those dollar games. Right. I don't have the kangaroo ball sack thing that all the hip kids at this pinball have, and nobody's giving me one. I don't do any of that stuff, right? Like, that's record money to me. Like, I'm not wasting a single dollar on your pinball game. But I love to play with my friends, right? But I've just completely lost my train of thought of why I was talking about this.
I think you would get into, like, when you go to a conference,
you
like to play the rare games.
I like to play the games that I don't have in my basement.
Yeah.
So people are like, why did you pick that game? I'm like, because I don't have it. Like, why didn't you pick, like, Addams Family? You have that game. I'm like, because I can play Addams Family in my pajamas anytime I want.
For sure.
Right.
But I don't have this game at home, so that's a treat to me to play something I don't have. So when I come to these shows, I'll play other companies' games, check them out, and I'll play, like, any game I don't have that's interesting to me. And I got a lot of older favorites that I like to play. I love to play them at these things. I don't have any access to them any other way.
Sure. So, which rare games have you played this weekend?
You know what? I can count the number of games of pinball I played at this show on one hand.
Right.
And 3 of them were that 8-ball game, which was the coolest thing I saw.
8-ball Beyond.
Yeah, 8-ball Beyond. That thing was incredible. And I saw that at the Tacoma
game.
show, I believe, this year too. And it's impressive.
Yes.
So hats off. I didn't speak to the man who made it, but hats off to him for doing a fantastic job. I'm impressed.
Right.
And I'm pretty cynical, so if you impressed me, like you did something right.
That was a fantastic homebrew game, and
It
the
really
homebrew
was.
games overall, you can tell that the homebrew crew is
They're stepping
getting
it
better
up.
every year.
They really are. I mean, that thing, like, it really had the whole package. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I played a game of Venom in our booth just so I could get the badge, But honestly, like most of these shows, unless somebody challenges me for a prize, which I don't do at this show, I don't get to play it very much because I'm talking to people all the time. I did that panel. I'm doing this thing with you, but people like come up to me almost, throughout and they stop me as I'm walking around, and I love it. I love talking to everybody. And this is why my voice is so blown out.
Yeah.
So I spend most of the show talking to all the fans and the customers, which is the main reason why they send me. So
Right.
the number of games I play is very small in a given day.
For sure. Yeah, the homebrew stuff was absolutely amazing. That game is like just finished.
It feels
the
very complete.
level
Yeah.
Of that 8-ball Beyond.
Yeah, I mean, it had full art, it had LCD art, like it had a full rule set. The sounds were really good. The music was cool. I mean, like I said, I was really impressed.
Very cool. Very cool.
The custom targets that I'm trying to figure out how they worked, they were little, they looked like cast resin.
Yeah, but
with
and they were
LEDs
shaped. They were shaped like
inside.
pool balls, basically,
Yeah.
right? And they lit up with RGB lights. I don't know how they're
They
actually
didn't look
triggered.
like they moved.
They didn't.
so
It's almost like I don't know if they're touch sensitive or what, but they were cool.
I'm gonna find out before.
Yeah,
we
And
leave.
the lights were like, just the way that the lights were arranged and the colors that he used was really well done.
It was very well done.
Yeah.
You've been telling us about the most magnificent cheeseburger on the planet
For years.
For years, we've always traveled around with Mike doing all these shows, and he's like, "Wait till you guys come to Chicago. I'm taking you to Kumar's
Kuma's. Kumas. Kuma's Corner.
Kuma's Corner."
Yeah.
We finally got to experience it, and if you want to see the image, it's on our Instagram.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and
These gigantic burgers.
yeah, what was that burger called?
The sour vein. So all the I hit this thing too close to my face. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
distorting on
Yeah,
me.
cool.
So all the burgers at Kuma's are named after heavy metal bands. All right, is that better?
Yeah,
All right.
you're good.
Yeah, so the sour vein was the one that you guys and I both ordered, and it was it's basically chicken and waffles with maple drizzle and raspberry aioli on top of a bacon cheeseburger, a half-pound bacon cheeseburger, on a pretzel roll.
Kale and I split one.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I ate the whole thing because I'm gross. I'm a glutton. It took a lot of years of training to get when I first
Plus
started eating
fries.
those.
Don't
No,
forget
no, I
the
didn't eat the fries.
I ate your fries.
Yeah, you ate my fries. I can't. I'm not allowed to eat the fries. Like I ate like 3 or 4 just to get a taste.
Yeah.
But I can't. I mean, I cheated by having the chicken was fried on there. Normally, I can't eat fried chicken either. But I'll break the rule for that.
You got to have a cheat meal every once in a while. Yeah.
I'm good for 2 or 3 sour veins a year, and now I'm cut off. I said until spring.
Right.
So I won't go back until.
We'll see you in the spring.
Yeah, you guys come back in the spring. You stay at my house. You got a room, and then we'll go there.
We'll listen to some vinyl.
Oh yeah, we can. I mean, how many weeks do you guys got? I mean, you can spend
years. I
Yeah,
think
you
we
mean
do
you guys
years.
could come over for 2 years and we'll all get through half of them. Yeah, so it's culinary perfection. Was what that thing is?
It was absolutely beautiful. What else is going? What else have you seen out here that has piqued your interest? Games, accessories, mods.
I don't understand how every couple months there seems to be another pinball company. So now there's that new one that did I don't remember what they're called. They did that Labyrinth game.
Barrels of Fun.
Barrels of Fun, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's they came out. So they had 2 games debuted at this show. One was from Jersey Jack, who've been around for 10 years. Or
Sure.
whatever. But here's another new startup that just came out of nowhere, and they're like, "Here's our game." I'm like, I gotta give them props just in the fact that like they did it where they're like they didn't even show you they didn't even announce like we're a thing until they had something to show you.
Wow, I
So-
love that.
Yeah,
I really
which
love
is
that.
which is very different from the typical startup group of like, hey, here's what we're gonna do, and we're
Send
gonna
us $1,000.
yeah, send us some money, and then here's our roadmap, and then nobody ever gets their game, and
Right.
everybody loses
So,
the money.
speaking of that, the way the industry's headed, you've seen ups and downs.
I've survived 3 of them. Yeah,
Well,
3 of the downs.
Right.
I've done the roller coaster at least 3 times. Like I
Okay.
think 3 times in my almost 30-year career.
So right now, this is incredibly impressive.
So
Did you
pinball-
think you'd ever see this?
No. So, first of all, when I worked at Williams, and I was on the video game side at that point. Well, I was working in both, but I was an employee at that point. Midway spun off, so I was a Midway employee, but I still was in charge of the pinball field test, so I placed all those games. But so when we closed pinball, and then Gary Stern, Stern Pinball was the only game left in town. I really admired his tenacity to wow. I'm like, if Williams didn't survive, how is anybody going to survive? Like, 'cause
Right.
we were the biggest game in town, but Gary was much, had the tenacity and the wherewithal, and he just did it right. Like, he knew how to survive even at the worst of times. Right. And times got even worse, I think, around 2008. And this is before I was an employee. That Stern almost didn't make it. Pinball was almost extinct.
Sure.
And nobody, I can guarantee you, there's not a soul on this planet that could have saved pinball, kept pinball going, other than Gary Stern.
Right. Everyone says Roger Sharp is the man who saved pinball.
No, Gary Stern is absolutely Roger Sharp was the man who saved pinball in New York City.
Yeah.
And to a lesser degree in other cities where after that, I guess that's not gambling. We should make it okay in our city too. Mm-hmm. Right? That was certainly hugely impactful. But the true man who saved pinball that they should make a movie and a book about is Gary Stern.
100%.
Because there would have been no Jersey Jack. There would have been no Spooky. There would have been none of this. There'd be no Pinball Expo still if it wasn't for Gary keeping that thing going.
For sure.
And he really could have gone and done anything else. He could have gone into the gambling machine. He could have gone into any other business he wanted, right? But he wanted to keep pinball alive, and I'm super grateful for it because I'm living out the best years of my career, which is about to turn 30, working at Stern. It's the greatest job I ever had with the greatest, most talented people.
Yeah.
And I wake up every day, I'm like, man, I'm so blessed in life because I love what I do. And most people don't get to say they love what they do. I mean, you guys get to do it. We're a rare breed.
Yeah.
Most people are like, this is my job that I have to do for the paycheck, but I hate it and I can't wait to go home.
Right.
Like, I love what I do, and I owe it all to Gary, I mean, and the people like George who hired me, but it's Gary's company, so, and if it wasn't for him keeping it alive, I don't know where I'd be right now. I didn't want to be in video games anymore, so that's why I wanted to come back to pinball. So, yeah, he is truly the man who saved pinball.
For sure. Yeah, I absolutely. I was telling Rachel that the other day.
Yeah.
He could still go do whatever he wants, but he's here.
Right.
He's actually here this weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
All over the floor.
Yeah, Gary's been everywhere, and I'll tell you, that man,
He out-partied me this weekend.
he out-parties everybody. I used to say, if I get to Gary's age and I have half the energy that he has at his age, I'm really succeeded in life, and I'm probably better than all of my peers. I don't have half the energy Gary has currently at my age.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I'm about half his age, and I don't have half
He's
his energy.
snowboarding. He's riding motorcycles. He's running the most successful pinball machine.
He's unbelievable. He's out on his boat, on the weekends in the summer here. I just turned 54 years old, and I think I've got a third of the energy that Gary has. And it's just it's
How does he do it?
I don't know how he does it.
I'll have to ask him.
Gary has truly found the fountain of youth. Maybe it's because he loves what he does, but I don't know. My health isn't getting any better, so this pinball's not reverse aging me, but it certainly worked for him.
Yeah.
But he might have drank all the magic formula and didn't leave any for the rest of us.
We don't drink.
Yeah, that might be the thing.
That
He's
might
got
be
the
our
preservative.
problem.
Yeah, maybe vodka is the key to youth. I don't know. I don't like to drink though, so I don't think I'm going to start. But I just hope I can, have some fraction of the energy he has when I get to his age.
Right.
I'd like it now.
Yeah.
Right.
These shows are. This job is exhausting. I travel so much. I love this, or I wouldn't be doing it. They didn't force this on me. They asked me if I would do it, and they said it's totally up to you if you want to travel like this and tour. I'm like, yeah, I love this. I love meeting people and talking to the people that play our games. That's my favorite part of this whole gig. Even more, as much as designing stuff that I get to design for the company. That's almost even better.
That's what I tell. So many people ask us, what is the best part about owning an arcade? hands down, it's the people.
It really is.
The folks that play pinball machines, that build these things, that sell them, every aspect of this industry, it holds the most interesting people in the world.
I mean, I've had people come up to me at these shows and tell me such nice things about the work that I did, that they knew that I did this on in this game.
Yeah.
And they tell me how much they love it, or it's their favorite game, or stuff like that. And it's sometimes it'll move me almost to tears, where
I feel you.
I can't believe that something I did had such an impact on these people, that they're having so much fun. And that's all I ever wanted, was I want something that I want to have fun with, that I wish to be in my own home.
Yeah.
And hopefully other people like it. And when they come to tell me just how much they like it, some people are like, James Bond is my favorite game. I'm like, that's you couldn't give me a higher compliment.
Mm-hmm.
They spent money on something that I had a hand in making with the people I work with. And they loved what I did so much that they spent a lot of money to have that. And they tell me how much they play it. I'm like, I never get sick of hearing that. That's the highest form of praise.
Yeah, we have a guy at our arcade who's there every morning before we get there, and he pulls up a stool, puts his beer and his headphones and drink and all that stuff, his cell phone on the stool, and he parks in front of Bond, and that's all he plays.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, short of walking up to me and handing me a box full of rare punk rock records, all the ones I'm still missing.
Right.
That's the highest form of praise that you could give, right?
Yeah.
But then he bought one, and now we're about to.
And now you lose that.
Now we're going to lose that.
This is a true story. He loved it so much at our arcade. Now he bought it.
Did he buy a premium or?
He bought a premium.
Wow.
Yep.
That's the way to go, I think, on Bond. Nothing against a pro, but I know when I play a pro at the shows, because I have the premium in my house for development. Right. I miss the features a lot, and plus there's still a couple more features, rule type things that are coming in the game that will be only on the premium and LE, because they will make use of the devices that the pro doesn't have.
Probably the jetpack.
It's like a jetpack and the bird one lock. There's cool. I talked about this one before, so I'll mention it again. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the swipe-a-ball feature on the Stranger Things premium and LE. Do you guys know that feature, that rule on the Stranger Things? Okay, so how it works, I invented this on that game. If you have a ball in Stranger Things and on the magnet lock, the TK lock, the physical ball lock, so that's the TK multi-ball. You're advancing towards that, right? But if you're in another multi-ball on the premium and LE, and you can press the button and release that locked ball and use it as an add-a-ball, another multi-ball. But then when that ends, you have to relight the lock and put the ball back that you borrowed. So you have to make a little bit more work. It's like borrowing a ball and then paying it back with a small amount of interest.
Okay.
So then it's also a risk and reward of do I want to keep advancing towards the TK multi-ball, or do I want to use it to extend this multi-ball that might be worth more points, or a wizard mode, right? That's a multi-ball. So you get to basically borrow against your own thing with having to do a little bit of added work to put back what you borrowed.
Something like
that.
So swipe
So I called it swipe-a-ball. I can't remember. I invented that mechanic in the rule. And then I don't remember which one of us. It was between Lonnie and me and Brian, and we went through a bunch of names. And then I don't know who came up with the swipe-a-ball. It might have been me. But anyway, we all decided that was going to be the name. And I'm like, this is going to be the name that I'm going to use if I use this rule again.
Okay.
And then when I knew that Bond was going to have a physical ball lock, I'm like, I'm bringing swipe-a-ball back to that. So the premium and the LE Bond will have that rule, but the pro will never get that. And for those listening at home, we will never add it to the pro in Stranger Things. It's part of the part of the design was you have to have a physical ball lock. I'm not going to do it virtually. And it's something to add more value to the people that spent the more money on the more expensive game. Give them more for their money.
Right, sure.
So I'm not going to water it down and do it with virtual locks.
Right, I got you. Thank you for rerunning Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Because now we get a chance to purchase one. We wanted a brand new one.
You and me both. So when we made that game, that was my largest design role until James Bond. And the year that we made it, we were in the middle of a pandemic. I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I still don't really, but at the time, money was tight, and I didn't know how this pandemic thing was going to play out. And I didn't have any space, so I'm like, well, I don't want anybody coming to my house in the middle of a pandemic. I'm afraid of the world. I wouldn't even go get the mail at my mailbox.
Right.
I made my now ex-wife.
We were using tongs, kitchen tongs.
Yeah, so when I would get records packages in the mail, My ex-wife, she was my wife at the time.
Right.
She would bring.
You didn't invite your ex-wife
I didn't invite my
over.
ex-wife just to bring in the mail. Like she didn't like me that much enough when we were married, let alone to do that when I'm not married. No, but when my wife at the time, she was a little braver than me. And so, like, I'm like, you got to go get the mail. I'm not touching the mailbox. I didn't know. I was afraid to touch anything. And when she'd bring, like, packages in, or if I ordered records online, I'd spray them with the Lysol disinfectant spray and let them sit there for hours before I'd even open the thing up.
And you're just waiting.
Yeah.
I want to
God,
play it.
I
want to
want to open it up and look at it. I'm like, but I can't touch it. It's going to give me COVID. Because, again, we didn't know how you catch it.
Yeah, we had no clue.
Right. So, so I'm like, well, I can't sell a game because no one's coming in this house. I won't even let my own family in the house. I mean, I barely let the
Even
people,
your wife.
Yeah, I barely let the wife and the kid come in the house if they left. Like, because I'm like, you step out of the house, you're putting me at risk, and don't go to your family's house to go visit your relatives, and like, don't go to your boyfriend's house. My stepdaughter.
Yeah.
And they all kept doing these things, right? And they were scaring the crap out of me.
They're sneaking around.
Yeah, I mean, they were just like, screw you, we got to go live our life. And then, you know how I got COVID? Because my ex-wife was less than careful,
Wow.
And that, so this was before there were vaccines, and I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Right.
Thankfully I didn't, obviously.
Yeah, you're here. Right. Yeah.
She was less than careful, and you got a disease.
Yep. Yeah, it's totally exactly what happened. Yeah.
And now you're no longer married. That's
Yep.
the TLDR.
Yeah, that totally is. That's the perfect TLDR. You just summed up my marriage in one sentence. My former marriage. I'm no longer married. Anyway, I didn't have the space or the money, and I couldn't make money by selling something. I had stuff I was planning on selling. So I'm like, all right, I'll get one next year when hopefully this stuff passes. Then next year came, and we were only running the pros, and then I'm like, are we going to run more premiums? And they're like, no. I'm like, really? I didn't get one. And they're like, no, sorry. So I'm like, oh, man. So I didn't get one, and then I kept my development one, and then at some point they made me bring it back.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, so now I've got this empty cabinet, which I put other playfields in for work, but it was a Stranger Things cabinet. And I'm like, man, that was my largest design role.
So you still have that cabinet.
Yeah, with
and
no
anytime you're
playfield in
testing games, you just swap
I
out the playfield.
I don't do the testing so much anymore. Like that got moved. I do other things now. Everything I do is like design and development work. But every time I'm working on a project, I put the playfield for what I'm doing, or more than one. And I'll still help out when I got some downtime with the testing. So I've got a couple development cabinets, one of which was my Stranger Things that was in my office before the pandemic.
Okay.
But now it's just an empty cabinet.
So you're going to get a Stranger Things
So
premium?
I'm going to buy the premium. Yeah, I'm buying myself a premium. As soon as we announced that we're going to run it, I told those guys, that's my game this year. I was going to buy my bond this year, so now that has to wait till next year.
Good
so I'm
deal.
like, give me a premium and give me the UV kit. I'm
Yeah.
like,
I was about to ask.
so I need to buy.
a must.
Yeah, absolutely, it's
Yeah.
a must. Like, and we're making those again too. So
Yes, we ordered one.
We
yeah,
ordered it.
and I think we're doing the accessories again too, like maybe the toppers, and
Okay.
I hope the shooter knob because
Yeah, I like the D20.
well, so that was my idea. They're like
Yeah, save one for us. Yeah.
So Brian and Lonnie and I were in, we had these design meetings all the time, and then we would have these weekly meetings with like the project managers and they said, okay, well, did you think about like your accessories? Like, what's your art blades going to be? What's your shooter knob going to be? And what's your topper going to be? And then I immediately said, well, we should do the 20-sided dice and light it up on for the shooter knob. And everybody was like, that's perfect. And then Brian designed the topper, and then the artists did the art blades, as part of the whole package.
Sure,
He does it with
good
the
deal.
package.
Yeah.
So that was the accessory package for that. But yeah, that was so. I'm very fond of that shooter knob, even though I wish the die was a little smaller. It's a little big, but I could still make the skill shots with it, so it still works.
Oh,
But,
very cool. Very cool.
So I think we're running that again too.
I don't know if you guys have announced it. Is there going to be a software update?
I cannot confirm or deny anything like that.
There you go. It
Right,
has
right.
not been announced.
Right? Yeah. We never announce software updates ever.
Okay.
When we do them, we do them and then they come out. But we never announce anything because we never like to make a promise that for some reason, what if you can't keep it?
Right.
It's better to let's just do them and put them out.
There you go.
The once you start advertising stuff and you have release dates, if you miss release dates, then everybody
People get
gets mad.
sad.
People get sad. They
Yeah.
get mad.
Good point.
They think that we're liars. So I mean.
And that you've always hated
lied
them.
to me.
Right. So we have a hard rule of like we never talk about anything in the future. We never say people will ask me, hey, when's the next Bond update coming up? I'm like, I can't tell you.
Right.
I'm like, I can tell you that we're working on it.
You don't even know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear that we're working on it because the game's not at 1.0, so I can legally tell you, yeah, we're working on it. But that could take more time than the last one. But it depends, because not everything that goes in the game takes the same amount of time to make,
Right.
And
Sure.
Lonnie is, the only programmer working on that game, so it's all on his plate. So he's got a lot to do, I do
Nice.
the rules with him, but I can't write any of the code with him, It's all on him.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You used to do the games on location testing.
I do not do that anymore, but I did when I first started at Stern. And way back in the Williams Valley Midway
Right.
days, I was in charge of that too for a couple of years.
So that data that you used to get from putting a game at Logan or whatever, do you guys, I know you're not in charge of it, but do you all still get that from physical, like going out and testing them, or is that all via Insider Connected now?
We still get it the old way too, like certain operators that we're friendly with or we have relationships with that will send us their audits. Like TJ and Ken will send us audits because they were we were doing field testing through them too. Not just locally. Like we would ship them machines and work out a deal with them to do testing. So we get some of that sent to us the old school way. And then some of it, I don't know how much, because I don't handle the back end stuff of like Insider Connected. I don't know how much of that data we're getting currently or how much they still have to implement to let us get that sort of thing. I don't really know. That's a little bit out of my jurisdiction to know how much, if any, that we're getting yet through Insider Connected.
So that stuff, that informs game updates.
Oh, for sure. So we look at the audits, because you can just dump them to the USB stick. And so, like, a location that we have a relationship with, I'll be like, hey, can dump your audits once a week, to a stick, and then just email them to us, And
like, how often are people making this martini shot?
Exactly, yeah. So we absolutely have, historically, this goes back to before I was in the industry. Once they had the ability to even track things like this. So we did this at Williams in the 90s. Like, I'd go there and get audits out of the pinball machines back then, but there was no internet. So, like, I would go and, like, have to write them down.
You had your chart.
I had a chart, or they made a special board that I had a prototype Shadow that we had on field test. That had the interface board still in it, and it allowed me to hook up a laptop and then dump the audits somehow to that laptop. It was very rudimentary.
I didn't realize
like
you worked
hack.
on Shadow.
I did not work on the Shadow, but I worked at the company at the time it came out.
Wow.
But
so you and Brian Eddy back together again?
Well, I didn't work on that project with them. I started in '94, and I think Shadow was in '94. But anyway, mine happened to be a prototype, the game that was in my house for like 24 years. Before that, it belonged to the sound guy, Dan Ford, and he gave me that game, his game. And his was one of the field test games because the designers used to get the field test games when the test was over. Like, that was the games they got for working on them. And he didn't want it anymore, but it still happened to have that interface board in there. And that, that was a selling point for when I sold it was a prototype, so I got more money for it. Yeah. And B, I'm like, it's got this board in it too that we didn't release. It was like for development. So like the guy that bought that's got some like rare piece of Williams history in there, So tracking the audits, we did that even 30 years ago, and it's hugely helpful to know like how to tune your games. Like, oh, nobody's getting the extra ball enough. We got to make it easier. Or nobody's getting these features, like they're too hard. So yeah, we look at that stuff all the time. I mean, it's a huge help.
Good deal.
And so that's one of those things whenever people are like, well, why don't they just release at 1.0? Here's a huge advantage to why you wouldn't want that, right? Because it's a much better game after you get real world feedback. You can fine tune it to make it a way more fun game, because we can think of tons of games from the 80s and 90s where if you could go back in, like, man, they really should have done this like a little bit different.
God, there's so many 90s Williams games like that I would like to unbreak. And unbreaking meaning like, all right, Theater of Magic is a one-shot game. If you're playing for strictly points,
the ramp, right?
No, it's the left orbit. You shoot the left orbit forever, and then like here's a story of how I know this. I was playing in my Pinball League finals, and I somehow made A group. Usually I'm like a high level B, right? Because I played with like Lyman and Keith Johnson, the Sharp brothers, and the Sharp Dad. So like Jason Werdrick, like all these top level local guys.
You had a rough league.
Yeah, I mean it was like all these killers, right? these were like the top players of the time, and they're still, some of those guys are still up there, right? So I made it to A that year because I just had a particularly great qualifying season. And my first fight of finals, it was like a double elimination, and you play 3 games, right? So my first fight of the finals was against Lyman. And so I took Lyman to like Centaur, and I beat him. And then he got really, really, really mad. And because usually he can wipe the floor with me. I mean, I could keep up with him, but he was so much better than me as
You'd say this was Lyman's lament?
It was. So and I'm like, fuck, I just made my friend mad at me. And thankfully it didn't last because he was the one reason why I have a job at Stern. Anyway, so he got so mad. And then when you lose, you get to choose game or order. So he chose game, and he took me to Theater of Magic. I'm like, well, I can certainly keep up with him on this one, like, because I know I have this game, So I played my normal thing where I'm like getting multi-balls, I'm starting modes, I get like 1 billion. He just shoots the left orbit for 25 minutes on one ball. Bam, 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 bam. Spell theater, shoot the thing and collect it. Rinse, repeat. Like he did it and he beat me by like 2.5 billion points. And he didn't start a single mode. It was just spell theater, get the thing, spell theater, he made one shot. And then however many letters in theater, it's like, I don't know, 32 letters.
Yeah.
Then he would shoot the trunk once and then repeat the 32 letters, right? And I'm like, call me when it's my turn. And I went upstairs and got lunch, where they were serving lunch to the kids at this guy's house. And then I couldn't, no matter what I tried, I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not doing that because I'll put myself to sleep. And so he beat me by over 2.5 billion points, and he didn't start a single mode.
Wow.
And I'm like, Lyman, you ruined this game for me, and now I'm gonna have to sell it. And I'm not lying. I put an ad on,
in the paper.
Yeah, in the paper, right? And I said, Theater Magic for sale, home use only. It used to belong to the lead programmer, and he gave it to me, and he got it new in the box. So,
wow.
And I had it for 20 years, and it was immaculate. It still looked like it came out of the box.
Yeah.
I had one mod on it. And I had a bunch of extra shit, including a lot of rare promo stuff and a couple things that only went to the team. I included all that, and then I traded it for a Tron Legacy and a stack of cash, which I then wasted on an engagement ring. But
wow.
But anyway, I wasn't kidding. Like I never could look at that. To this day, I can't look at that game and think of anything other than like, if I want any points in this game, I just have to shoot the left orbit for a year and a half. So he wrecked it for me.
Well, I'm glad you told me that trick because if I have to play it in a tournament,
just
that's what I'm doing.
Get really good at shooting the left orbit and then shooting the trunk to collect the hurry up.
I might cut that out of this video just so nobody else figures it out.
But if I could go back, like we just said, to fix a broken game, I did the air quotes for. I guess they see it because we got a camera.
Yeah.
I would fix that.
Yeah.
And in that game, I'd also actually have the wizard mode do something because that guy was lazy,
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a lot of that stuff. But so how it's different now though than in the old days was back in the old days there was no such thing as the internet, or it was so new that, and there certainly was no such thing as a smartphone, and people didn't walk around with digital cameras.
Right.
And no one's taking pictures of games and going to develop film.
And then mailing them.
Yeah, and then mailing them to everybody they know in the pinball community. Back then, there was no such thing as the internet, really. Well, it was still at a very rudimentary level, and there was no smartphones, no digital cameras. I think I even carried a pager still at the time. I mean, this is what we're talking about, right?
Boobies.
So you're right. So we would put at Williams and even on the video side of Midway Games, we would put a game out 3 months before we would actually go into production.
At a local arcade.
Because you could do that.
We would put them at a few local arcades. I was in charge of this whole program for a number of years at the tail end of that company's existence.
Okay.
So
would people freak out and they'd be like, oh, the new game's here? Would they call their friends and, hey, come play this?
Go outside on the payphone.
They absolutely would. And they knew where we tested games because we had a handful of regular test sites that we worked with that were the bigger, better arcades and bars in the area. We didn't really hide them, but we had never announced hey, we're putting a game. We would just show up one day with the new game. I would call the location and say, hey, I'm bringing you a game on Friday. Here's the spot I want you to put it in.
Yeah.
And then we would just show up on, Friday after the normal day shift was over. Usually at dinner time, we'd show up with a new game and I'd drop it in there, and then the people that were there would play it. and then they would go tell their friends, and the word would get out. But but on a national level, nobody outside of Chicago was seeing this unless they happened to be coming into Chicago to visit.
Sure.
And I don't know that there was that many times that people came from out of state, but there might have been some really hardcores that did. So I know they did that when we put out Pinball 2000.
Right.
Yeah. But
so video games and pinball manufacturers did this.
Yeah. So I mean, and we did both back then. So I remember when we put Mortal Kombat 3 on test. So first we put it at a place called Diversions, and it, everybody went crazy for it. Then we put it at Dennis's, and so by the time we get it, we usually put out about between 6 and 10 of them, at different 6 to 10 locations in the Chicago area, in the city proper and in the suburbs. And it was at a variety of places, like a bar, a hotel, and lots of arcades. We worked with a lot of all the best arcades. Most of them were our test sites.
I vaguely remember I had subscriptions to all the video game magazines.
Right.
I vaguely remember there would be sections where the so-and-so game was seen at this bar.
And that's what we would do. And then we would, we would just go. I would go watch the players play like Mortal Kombat. I'd spend
just looking like a creep.
Yeah, I would just. I would look.
Did you have a clipboard?
No. I would just commit all this shit to memory, And everybody knew I worked there, so it wasn't like it was a secret.
Right.
But I also looked like a gamer at the time. I was a gamer at the time.
Right.
So it wasn't out of the ordinary, and they all knew us, and they actually liked when we come there because they're like, I want to show off and show them how good I am.
Yeah, I bet.
Stuff like that, or they'd come ask us questions. But a lot of places, where it wasn't full of hardcore fans. They didn't know me, so I just looked like a guy watching people play the game. Maybe I was waiting to play it. I just didn't ever play it.
You didn't put your quarter on the machine?
I never put my token or quarter in the machine, no. And then I would go back and tell them what I saw, and be like, all right, here's what I'm seeing.
How cool.
Or on the pinball machines, and even the video games too, we would dump the audits. Now, I'd have to write it down with a pen and the paper on the video game side, but the pinball guys figured out that little board so you could dump it to a laptop, and I had to bring this laptop. I mean, it was it was like a briefcase sized laptop, and plug it in, and then hook up this this modem cable to it, and do a bunch of voodoo to get it to print the audits to where I could capture it somehow. It was really very crude, but it worked. For 1990 mid to late 90s technology, that was the shit.
Right.
So and then we would tune the games accordingly, and they would go into the box usually at 1.0, unless you're Mortal Kombat, and then you come out, with fairly bare bones, enough to be playable and fun. But we would add more stuff, there'd be missing characters, because the demand was so high, and it took so long to make that game that they're like, we got to ship them, and then we'll send them. But back then we had to send out ROMs, and it was much harder to update games. And much more expensive.
Well, yeah, I was about to ask. So that's how you would add characters. You would ship ROMs.
We'd ship ROMs, yeah. I mean, the art had to be in there, but the gameplay portion, so we could have completely not in the game, but they exist on the art ROMs, because those we'd have to lock down back then. But the program ROMs were 2 ROMs, so we could change that, and then once we enabled the character in that, then it was playable, because the art and the sound associated with it was already in there that nobody could see,
Yeah.
But nowadays, if I were to take... pretend Venom didn't come out yet, and we didn't announce it yet. And if I wanted to put it on test now, I can't, because it doesn't matter where I could put it. I could put it, at the worst, business in any town. Worst meaning they don't get a lot of customers, right?
Right.
The most the least amount of customers walk in this place.
Yeah.
Give it an hour. And then one person, it's on Pinside, it's everywhere. It's all over social media, and then you can't hide anything these days, right?
Sure.
So then, then there'd be people would know what the next game was, and you can't do now what you could do then, because technology and the world has changed.
Right.
Everything is just instant. Everything, information's at your fingertips at all times.
Sure. Which is good for pinball updates.
It's
you
great
can
for
send
pinball
stuff
updates.
over the air. We love that.
Now you don't even have to use the USB sticks if you're Insider connected. Just turn on your game and go get something to eat.
Right.
And come back, and now your game's new.
Yeah, and we have it set to automatically do that.
Yeah.
So we'll come in boom.
I think they default to that setting now. That started with maybe James Bond, but before that you had to opt in, and now
Gotcha.
It's defaulted to on, and you can opt out, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what we changed that to.
We'll check it when we get home.
Yeah, so as long as your game's on, it's going to update it, and you don't have to lift a finger.
Love that.
Now you got better game.
Yeah, right on. Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. So should we head to the game show? I heard there's a game show going on.
We got another hour.
Do we really?
Yeah, those guys don't go on until 9 or 9:15.
Oh man, I hopefully I can get on stage.
We need you on stage. You should probably host
I told Kyle to kind of rig it.
Well, here's what you could do though, if you really want to participate. I'm bummed out that those guys didn't ask me to do it, and they asked Kyle. Like, I would have loved to do that. Like, it's fun.
You want to be Vanna?
I do.
Here's the idea.
Yeah.
You two host a competing game show in the next room over.
So wait, let's make a deal. Like, we could be like Joker's Wild. Like, that was a better game.
That was
show
a good one.
I love that show. But you could knock, like when Kyle's walking to the thing to meet up with those guys, just like hit him in the back of the head and knock him down and take his fancy
clothes.
Take his clothes.
Yeah.
Just take that fancy Hawaiian shirt. Put it on.
Yeah, we're sharing a room with him. We could just take all the clothes. Like next time he goes up there to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, just go grab some of his clothes and put them on.
He's got a gold medal in jiu-jitsu.
And then, like, I'll say, I need you to come with me right away. I'll just distract him long enough for you to get to the stage first.
This is Pinball Ocean's 11.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Pro wrestling.
Yeah. Well, that would hit him with a chair if I'm in a wrestling angle.
Are you still into wrestling?
I love wrestling, but I don't work in professional wrestling anymore. I have been out of it, working in it for 6 years.
Too many chairs.
Yeah, too many. I got busted. I legitimately did get busted open the hard way as a photographer in professional wrestling. I'll tell you that story in a minute. I've been out of it for 6 years, but last year, 2022, I did a one-off for a promoter I used to work for who I like a lot. He did a show that he told me he was going to probably do it semi-regularly, like a couple times a year. It ended up being a one-off. He hasn't done it since. But I happily went back to do that for him. And I didn't have anything to do with the creative of that show. It was just doing photography for him.
Okay.
But it was nice to be back, like dip my toes in there again. Yeah. But I did used to work in it, like not as a wrestler because I'm not built for that. But I started in it as a photographer. But then, like, one of the two companies I worked for, I ended up, like, producing the show and doing all the creative. Like, I'd make the matches and book the talent, and I would write the angles and and work out like all the stories I wanted to tell with the wrestlers.
Can you confirm, are the chairs real?
Oh yeah, they're absolutely real.
They're real.
There's nothing to rig about those chairs. Like, and those, if you took a shot to the head, you were foolish. Like, especially if you didn't put up your hands to protect yourself. No, those chairs are real.
I don't know if I ever told you this. My stepbrother is really into it.
Yeah.
And he's a guitarist, and he tours with a band called Fozzy.
Okay, yeah, and that's Chris Jericho's
Chris Jericho's band.
Yeah. I've had opportunities to shoot them, and it always fell on dates I couldn't make because I had some other commitment, or they were playing a club I didn't like, and I didn't want to go shoot shows there.
I want to hear about you getting.
Oh, okay, yeah, by getting busted open the hard way. So the term busted open the hard way. So in wrestling, like when people bleed, we call it getting color, and they would usually take a razor blade and cut their foreheads open and then make the blood, right? Oh, like I would hit you in the head and then you would fall down and sell it, and while you're selling it, you're just like discreetly.
Where do they keep the razor blades?
They wrap it in their tape, or they keep it in their mouth, or the referee can. There's a number of ways guys
do it. So they
could
accidentally slit the wrist.
They're really good at like knowing not to how to place it. These are professionals, Rachel.
Yeah, but accidents happen all the time.
There's a number of ways you can hide the blade. Sometimes they'll hide it under the ring, which is gross because that floor is dirty. But sometimes like somebody will hand it to them. A lot of times, the keeping in the mouth is weird to me. Like, what if you take a bump too hard and you swallow that thing?
Oh God!
You'll tear up your dead.
Yeah.
So mostly they would wrap it in the tape. Sometimes they'd tape it to their fingers, so then they could just like
Wolverine.
They could. So anyway, but. There's busted up the hard way. It was like, I just punched you in the head until you start bleeding for real, like we were in a real fight.
Oh my God.
And there is a sweet spot on your eyebrow that if I hit you with my knuckle just right, it'll split it right open and you'll bleed like crazy. So I'm shooting like a tag match, and I'm like, I would lean into the ropes so I can shoot through the ropes, and I was a little too close to the guy that just got tagged in, and he swung his leg around to get in the thing, and he somehow kicked the camera just right. And he didn't know he did this. It was a total accident. But it was like the most perfectly aligned comedy of errors. He got in there, he swung his leg in just the right way where whatever angle I was at, he kicked my lens, which then hit my camera right into that sweet spot on my forehead and my eyebrow, and it just split it wide open. And then I had the Crimson Mask. It was blood was running down my face. And I'm wearing like a polo shirt, and they're not absorbent. What's the word?
Absorbent.
Thank you. Absorbent, like a T-shirt is.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to mop up. I'm shooting because I'm a professional. I'm gonna finish the match.
You have to finish, yeah.
Right. So I'm shooting, and then when blood starts running into where I can't see through the viewfinder, I'm like, I'd move the camera away and I'd wipe it on my sleeve, and I was trying to like be discreet about it because like fans are as close to me as you are. Like I'm in this barricade, right?
Right.
But they're like,
They probably think it's cool.
Yeah.
no, but this is what's so funny. Like some fans that were standing behind me saw that I'm bleeding, and they saw what happened. And then I heard one of them ask the one next to him, like, was that part of the match that the cameraman got busted open?
Right.
And I'm like, how
That's
does
what
that?
I would think.
And I'm thinking, like, how does that advance the story? Like, I'm not. The rest of the audience isn't.
This guy is such a jerk
Yeah.
that he's busted open
He
even the
kicked over
cameraman.
and it was a heel tag team. So in the true professional that I am, I just kept mopping up the blood on my, and dude, if I didn't wipe it up, I would have the Ric Flair crimson mask like running down my face.
Right.
It bled that much.
Wow.
But I'm a professional, so I finished the match. As soon as the bell rang, I ran to the back to clean it up in the sink in the backstage area. And then one of the wrestlers, I'm like, is anybody got a Band-Aid? Like,
Give you
I'm
some
like, what
Vaseline?
happened? I'm like, I got busted open the hard way. They're like, what? And I explained to them, and they're like, holy shit, and they could see me. So one guy's like, yeah, I got Band-Aids. He's like, you want crazy glue? Because they usually just crazy glue their things
Yeah,
shut.
for sure.
I'm like, no, I'll just stick with the Band-Aid, but I'll come back for the glue if it, like, because otherwise I didn't have to get stitches.
Right.
I was able to stop bleeding when I wiped it up and put a Band-Aid on it. But then he told the wrestler when he came backstage, he told the promoter, and the promoter's like, what the F? You kicked the cameraman? And again, I was not upset about it at all. I was surprised it took 5 years before I got clipped by somebody. Like,
For sure.
I had some close calls. So when there was one more match, and so when the show was over and we were all kind of like, packing up, the wrestler, his name was Nick, he came up to me and he gave me a big hug. He goes, Mike, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know you were there. I felt like I hit something. I didn't know what it was. He goes, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, he goes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But the promoter, Tony's like, of all the people you're going to bust open the hard way, you busted open the cameraman.
Right.
And I said, hey, wait, is this a wrestling first? It might be. So I might be the only cameraman that ever got busted
Like a
up.
true legend.
Yeah, so I really felt like more like one of the boys then because like I got color in the match.
Right.
I wish we could have used it as some sort of angle.
Yeah.
But he apologized and hugged me. It was all good. I'm like, no, it was an accident. Like I'm not upset about it. Now I got a cool story to tell.
Yeah, right. And we have it here.
But if you look really close in this eye,
I can see a scar.
I have a scar.
Unbelievable.
And I'm not even upset about it because I'm like, that makes me tough.
Yeah.
Like, how'd that happen? Oh, yeah.
And we've always said that about you.
Thank you.
Watch
Yeah.
out for Vinikour.
Yeah, I'm real tough. I'm not a fighter at all, but I got busted up in the hard way in a wrestling match. So
I learned all of my wrestling terms from talking to you and trying to figure out context clues.
Oh, yeah. Everybody at
Put
work.
one over.
Yeah, everybody laughs at me because honestly, like, the way professional wrestling works, it's like there's a professional wrestling analogy for every aspect of life. I use it all the time when we design games, like the pacing and like the high spots. Like high spots in wrestling. Like what are the high spots in our game? And like in Bond, I built everything towards high spots of like, okay, where are the wizard modes? Those are the high spots. How do we get there? Like the pacing to tell that story.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing in game design than it is in wrestling and it is in life.
For sure.
Life is all about heels and baby faces and overcoming adversity, and so is wrestling. And a tale of good and evil, right?
And so is pinball.
Right, and so is pinball, and just any form of entertainment. Like it's all entertainment. So again, you've got the peaks and valleys of like how you take people on an emotional ride to entertain them, and we do that with our games, video and pinball. We do it in and the pacing. I think why I'm so good at pacing was because some of it had to be attributed to what I learned from producing wrestling shows.
That makes sense.
And I think that actually kind of goes to why theme is such an important thing, because it gives you something to wrap a story around that you as the player are going to care about.
Exactly.
Because we keep seeing this come up with like, I want an original theme, but then that's an incredibly difficult game to write.
It is, because you're like, okay,
you don't care.
Right. You give them, we have an attachment to the Black Knight, for example, because we're pinball and gamers. So we played the first two. But the average pinball player now, the younger ones, have no context of Black Knight. That'd be new to pinball after 2 years. I didn't know what that was.
They just know it's the guy that swears at you now.
Right. But like, if you don't know, even if you're not a gamer, right? Like, I'll use Stranger Things as an example because I mean that game really earns well on location because the theme has such a broad audience that spans multiple generations. Somebody that doesn't even know what pinball is could be sitting in your bar, right? Maybe they came for the concert and they look and they see a Stranger Things in there. They might walk across the room to go check that out because they love the TV show. Now put the Black Knight in that same spot, and it's not a knock on the Black Knight, but that's not going to get somebody that doesn't know what the Black Knight is to walk across that room and maybe put $1 in the game.
You're right.
So the reason why licensing games is such a thing is because, like you said, it's instant identification, and you already have an attachment to some of these things if it's something that you're fond of. I love Star Wars. That was my favorite movie in the entire world. I will walk across the room to see anything with the Star Wars name on it. Pinball machine, video game, like not a gambling machine because, again, record money. But,
Right.
but you know what I mean? But I'm not going to walk across the thing to look at something I don't know what it is or I'm not even interested in,
Right.
I'm not a Pokemon player. That's like I'm older than that. So I'm probably not going to go walk out of my way to check it out. If I was real next to it, I'd look at it.
For sure.
But my nephew would run across the room to go check out that Pokemon game,
Yeah.
If we had like a Roblox thing, he'd be all over it,
Right.
But so that's why theme is super important. And you already have this attachment. It's easier than to get people invested in wanting to go on that journey that you want to take them on and play your game and try to see what it has to offer,
Who is the Scorgar?
Exactly. Yeah. Why does he speak? But the pacing is huge, and because you got to keep them engaged, and there's always got to be something to chase. And it's very similar to like if you and I are in a wrestling feud, we want to milk it for as many matches as possible. We don't want to be one and done. So how do we tell that story to keep it compelling and keep them coming back to see us fight again?
Right.
Like what twist do we put on the story, and what match stipulations do we do? Right.
You have the rematch, the rubber match.
Right. And then we're like, okay, now we're going to do it in a cage, right?
Right.
Now, so
Ladder.
yeah. So it's like, all right, well, where are the carrots that you're dangling to like, okay, what's the next big thing I want to achieve that I feel is attainable to me as a player? Right. And you just build towards that, and that's how the pacing works.
Yeah, pairing that storytelling and dopamine, like that's such a fine craft that I think that the aspiring pinball makers that's something really to work on, right? It's not just about an orbit shot, a ramp shot, a weird thing. It's what do those get you?
Exactly. Like make me care about doing those things, those chores, those tasks.
Right.
Like get me invested, like emotionally. Like I want to do that because I'm gonna get this, and that's super fun.
Otherwise, I'm just vacuuming the living room in a different pattern.
Exactly. So that's key. Like is give me a reason to care. And it's like that in any informative. Give me a reason to care about the two characters you're telling a story about on the screen. Like, why are these people fighting? Or why are these two people falling in love? Or, like, where does this go, right? Like, why do I want this person to save the world?
Right.
Give me a reason to care.
I think as far as dopamine goes, nothing tops Insider Connected achievements. Because Rachel and I will watch people play games that we've played over and over again for days, and then we'll see an achievement popped up. And, whoa, we don't have that yet. So we're drilling that game, trying to land those achievements.
I will tell you, as somebody that worked on this platform and designed many of those achievements, even if I didn't, like when I play Stern Pinball machines, if they're not logged in, I feel like I'm wasting my time. I'm like, oh, this isn't one. I'll go play one that is, Like I almost don't want to play my Tron at home, and it's one of my favorite games because I'm like, well, I can't scan in.
Yeah, right.
There's no achievements. I won't get to go on the website to see what my best score was. I have to remember it.
And that game looks so modern.
Post-it note.
That game looks so modern. It feels like you should be able to log in.
Exactly. I'm like, well, this was the future. This is the future in 1984.
So here's where you announce Insider Connected for White Star.
No, those games, that platform is so old that it really couldn't. There's no way to support it, right?
No.
Like, unfortunately, I mean, God, I would love to have Insider achievements on Tron just because I have one, and it's one of my favorite Stern games ever.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel like if I can't scan in, I'm wasting my time. I want to, like, when I see an 8-Ball Deluxe at the show, I'm like, why can't I skate in on this? I want achievements on 8 pounds legs. Like I've gone so far over the thing where it's become so ingrained in my life.
Right.
And like you said, the dopamine, like every time I hear that little ding when I get an achievement, I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
It's better than when you get the little red number on like your Facebook thing saying, oh, there's somebody commented on your thing. No, this is 1,000% better.
Right. And
do you know who did the sound? Who decided on the ding?
I mean, we went through a bunch of different ones. I don't know who ultimately. Well, I'll listen to it and then until they found one they like. But I mean, Tanio, Mark Guidarelli, and Mark Panaccio, and Mitch Deason. He came on a little bit later. Were largely the architects of that, and George, Gomez was driving it all. I mean, all of this whole Insider Connected thing was George's brainchild, and this was like, I want to take these games and do these things, and then he put us together and gave us, a map of like, this is what we've got to do. And
kudos to George.
Right, yeah. I mean, that dude, George is a total visionary. I mean, the reason why Stern is so good at what we do is because the design studio we have was 100% the creation of George Gomez. Like, he has, he's like the architect. He put us all together, and he did it in such a way that he really encourages us to find our path and our strengths, and then that just makes what we all do better, because when we all love what we do and he finds things that we're good at, like, then and encourages that, you only just get better games for it.
It's always good to work for somebody like that. Team needs a great leader.
He is, an amazing leader, and it really is an honor and a privilege that he chose me to be one member of this whole studio. Mm-hmm. And I'm a perfect example of, like, he hired me, almost 7 years ago. January will be 7 years for me. Largely to be the software tester. Like, he knew I had experience doing that. He knew I did game design and stuff too, but they needed somebody to do that, and that's why he brought me in. But he also gave me a clear path to find my way and like grow. And I would go ask him, like, hey, is it okay if I do this or try this, or can I be a part of this? And the answer was always yes. And he's like, I'll encourage you to do. I welcome you to branch out and do whatever you can, and I'll direct you. If I think you're doing a good job, I'll keep you at it. If I think you need to be redirected because maybe it's not a good fit, I'll steer you somewhere else. And it came at the detriment of me doing what he hired me for at some point, because I got good at the things I'm now good at. Uh-huh. But he completely encouraged it. He goes, I can hire somebody to backfill what you no longer do. Like, you're doing great things. And most places are like, stay in your lane, right?
Right.
And George's, no, find your path.
Love
and that's
that.
why we all have done great things. And I'm not the only one that this has happened to, but I'm probably one of the much more recent and biggest examples, I would think. But I mean, I'm watching people grow, like Tim Sexton was hired to be, and we started him in a support role, and he quickly grew to where we gave him a lead shot on Black Knight, and he did a good job. And then then they put him on another lead, and now he's just a lead, right. And he's been the lead on 3 games now, and that
Cheers
guy,
to that.
Yeah, that guy, he took the ball that was given to him and he ran with it, and he proved himself that he's capable and he can do good work.
Good deal.
In that role, like, he didn't let anybody down. He did good stuff, and I'm watching this happen with a lot of the other newer hires too, and even outside of like my department. Now, George isn't Michael Grant's boss, but I'm going to put him over because he was hired for one thing, and they put him on the road with me, and he does a lot of other stuff, and I've watched that guy grow in less than 2 years. It's only been about a year and a half, and he's been doing such great things, and I love to see, like, his growth, and like, I'm so proud of him.
Yeah,
and
he's doing a great job.
He is.
We work closely with him.
Yeah, and he does most of these shows with me. And at the first, I was like reluctant. Like, I don't need a tag team partner, but I love the guy, and I can't imagine doing it without him now. Like, and I'm really proud to see how he's grown, much like I did. Like, he was given the foot in the door, and then he got in there, he found the ball, he picked it up, and now he's running in every direction he feels that he can succeed in, and he's killing it.
We're so glad he's on the team. Yeah.
We all are. But yeah, again, going back to George, he was the brainchild of the thing, and he's why we're doing such great things, because he brought us. He's got a great eye for talent, and he knows how to nurture that talent, and that's a really rare trait in a leader.
That's so nice of you to say that on video here, because I think most Stern fans just think of him as a designer. Oh, yeah. He did Deadpool, he did Bond, but
right.
They don't see the behind the scenes. I mean, really keeps this thing running.
So doing the game design is not his normal job. So when he does like a Bond or a Deadpool, it comes at the expense of now all the other stuff he's supposed to be doing now has to share his time.
Wow.
So he spreads himself pretty thin. And again, another perfect example of I wish when I get to that age, I can do that, like have that kind of drive and energy. Because again, I don't know how they do it, but I mean, it's amazing. Like I couldn't juggle that much stuff at once.
Yeah.
No matter how much I try, I juggle a lot of stuff. But I mean, he makes me look like I'm juggling one ball, and he's juggling like the entirety of like every ball.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. We might need to wrap this up so we don't run out of any more batteries.
Oh,
I think we're on our final batteries.
All right. I mean, I could go on for days. But yeah, I'll do this with you guys anytime. When I come visit you in 2 months, we could
definitely.
we could do this in house with your big rig.
Yeah, right on.
So,
what's going on? What shows are you doing after this?
So next week I'm going to the Nashville show, which is called Music City Multicon. So remember that Nashville show that we used to do was much smaller.
Yep.
Same guy, David. He's grown it now into a bigger venue just outside of Nashville, but it's still Nashville. It's like this. We're not in Chicago, but this is the Chicago.
Right on. And that's coming up in...
It's coming up in 5 days. It's
awesome.
It's Friday. This coming Friday. So today is Saturday. So
next week.
Yeah, I leave Thursday, for the setup.
Good
I'll
deal.
be there. I'll be there with Tilt Amusements. They're gonna have a booth full of Stern games. I'll have some stuff to give away, like I usually do. And then, so I'm doing that show. Then 2 weeks later, I'm doing the Houston Arcade Expo.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah, I love that one. And then 2 weeks after that, I do Cincinnati. And then that's it.
Wow.
And then that's it for this calendar year. And then in March, it all starts up. The new tour starts all over again.
So if you are in Nashville, Houston, or Cincinnati, come hang out with Mike at the Marco Stern booth.
No Marco for these three. So the 2 of the 3 will be the Tilt booth.
Oh, okay.
Right? So Nashville and Cincinnati, I'll be with the Tilt guys, Troy and Trent.
Fantastic.
And then I believe it's Joysticks as our dealer.
Yes.
I believe in Houston.
Charlie.
Yeah,
I love Joysticks.
So I'll be so Marco's not doing the Houston show, unfortunately, this year. So I'll just be in that booth.
Have you been to Joysticks?
I have not.
This time you have to go. Tell Charlie you're coming out. He'll get you some lunch. It is 3 stories of it's basically a museum.
Computer space.
Oh wow.
Oh, it is amazing.
I definitely want to see that.
Yeah, make sure you go hang out with Charlie at Joystick.
Okay.
Right on.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We're gonna hit the floor. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike. We're gonna go have some fun.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I love you guys.
Yeah.
It was an instant yes when you asked. Yeah.
Isn't this fun? We're in the hotel lobby. That's why it's all this background noise.
Some weird hammering going on back there.
Before when Rachel and Kayla used to work at Marco, we were on the road together.
Yeah.
We were part of the traveling pinball family.
Yeah.
And I love these two more than
we
most
would
people.
We would do this in the room.
Yeah.
We just wouldn't record it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's such a treat whenever the 3 of us get together. It's never enough to I don't get to see you guys enough.
I can't wait till you come visit in
I know.
December.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Right.
Not just for getting the gold status, but I'm mostly excited to see you. And my friend Kirsty's really excited that we can go record shopping together when I'm down there.
We'll have a blast.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to head back to the floor, and we'll maybe do some more interviews later on.
Who knows?
We'll see you guys. The bats are out.
Oh.
You got to do the bat handshake.
There.
Yeah.
You're in the club
awesome.
now.
That's awesome.
Now you're in the club.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.